Welcome to Wildly Capable with Kate, a podcast made for those looking to unleash their wildest capabilities. I'm your host, Kate DeRocher, a dating, relationship, and self-worth coach on a mission to help people build better relationships, starting with the one they have with themselves. In each episode, we'll dig deep, turn inwards, and embark on a transformative journey. Together, we'll break free from unhealthy patterns, rip through self-limiting beliefs, heal past wounds, and build unwavering self-worth, all to create healthier relationships as a result. Get ready to explore the wild, untapped potential within you. Are you ready to see just how wildly capable you are? Subscribe now and join us on this empowering adventure. Remember, your wildest capabilities await. My bet is that any woman listening to this podcast knows firsthand exactly what it feels like to be extremely excited for your season of being a bride. So many of us spend so much time wondering when we're going to meet Mr. Right, when he's going to get down on one knee and say those 4 magical words. We have Pinterest boards full of our vision for our future wedding. A wedding and being a bride is a big deal to a woman, as it should be. And now that I'm in my season of being a bride, after so many years of honestly wondering if I ever would get married, I can share with you all that it is a magical season and it is such a beautiful time in a woman's life and anybody's life. But I'm also learning in real time that it comes with a lot of challenges, that your season of being a bride comes with many lessons that nobody prepares you for. So in this podcast episode, I'm going to be the one who shares them with you. I'm going to prepare you for some of the roadblocks and the difficulties and the heartbreaks and the challenges that you might encounter when you're a bride, when you're planning your wedding, when you are preparing to become a wife for somebody. I'm going to get really raw and honest, and transparently, I haven't completely come out the other side. I'm not married yet. I'm still in my season of being a bride. So I'm sure I'll record another podcast down the line with more of the lessons that I've learned and overcome. But anybody listening to this knows that my whole goal is always to be as transparent as possible with you guys. I feel kind of like a big sister and somebody who can just guide you in ways that maybe you're not being guided. So I hope this podcast does that for you. Anybody listening to this who is a bride, this is for you. Any woman who's listening to this who hopes to be a bride someday, this is also for you. And any woman who is not there yet, but maybe you have friends or loved ones who are getting married, I really think it's important for you to listen to this too. Same goes for men. For grooms, it's extremely important for you guys to understand the way your bride is feeling. So this episode applies to everybody, whether you are a bride or not. But before we dive into the struggles and things I'm learning through this season, first of all, let me just say welcome. Thank you so much for listening in to the Wildly Capable with Kate podcast. If you've been following along for a while now, or you follow my social media, you know my name is Kate, and I'm a dating and relationship coach who's on a mission to help you build better relationships. I help people find lasting love through inner healing, and I help you start first with a relationship that you have with yourself. So thank you for tuning in. This is an episode that is a little challenging for me to record. It's one that I feel I don't fully have my footing in yet, but I feel it's important for me to share anyway as I learn. So thank you for being here, and thanks for tuning in, and thanks for giving me the space to be real and raw and vulnerable. I hope it helps somebody. I also want to remind you all that I'm currently taking on new coaching clients. I offer full coaching programs. It's a one-on-one program where we meet for 8 weeks and we go through all of the things you're struggling with your dating and relationship life. I have been there, I have done it, and I'm here to share my wisdom with you. I also offer something new called breakthrough sessions, which are a 2-hour call that will accelerate your growth. We will dive in deep in that 2-hour call, and we will tackle anything and everything we possibly can to help set you up for success once the call has ended. We're going to go into your patterns, your wounds, your beliefs. We're going to just break down everything to come up with a game plan for you moving forward to address the struggles that you're facing in your dating life or in your relationships. If you are interested in full coaching with me, if you want to do one of my programs, or if you want to book a breakthrough session, head to my website, coachkatederocher.com, fill out my coaching application, and then I will set up a call if I feel like we're a fit to work together. Thank you so much for taking the time to fill it out. I cannot wait to meet you. Okay, so now to my story and what it has been like in my season of being a bride. My fiance and I got engaged 4 months ago in June of 2024. And I knew the engagement was coming. We had talked about getting married. So I knew at some point this year he was going to propose to me. He was going to get down on one knee and ask me to be his wife. I knew it was coming. But what I wasn't prepared for was all of the things that would follow that proposal. So Bobby and I, my fiance, we're in a really solid place, and the engagement was extremely exciting for us. It was really beautiful. I've shared my engagement story on an earlier episode. It just was he did such a great job. It just was so intentional and so sweet, and he thought of every single thing and made me feel just like he truly knew me and like just how much he loves me. So the engagement was incredible. It's something I will never forget. It's something I am just so happy for, grateful for. But some of the things that followed that engagement were very challenging and very unexpected. And I'm not going to share direct details because there are people that those details are about that I want to protect. And also, they are with people who I'm in a state of like processing and mending our relationship with. So I'm not going to share in-depth details, but I will share some high-level details. And I guarantee anybody who's a bride or has been in the season or is about to step into it, you'll be able to relate even just to those like high-level kind of vague details. The first was that I had some unexpected struggles with my family members. And I've talked before on this podcast about how I haven't always had the perfect family. There's been a lot of challenges. A lot of my own patterns and wounds and fears and mindsets were created from a difficult upbringing. I have parents who love me. They love me so, so much, but they just weren't necessarily, they didn't necessarily do any healing work or address their own traumas before having kids. So that bled into my childhood, and that bled into my sister's childhood and how that shaped us as women. And it's something that we've both had to overcome. So my family life has not always been perfect, but throughout the process of announcing I was engaged and starting to shop for my wedding dress and sending out our save the dates and things like that, there were just numerous instances with both my family and Bobby's family. But through the process of getting engaged and announcing our engagement and then shopping for my wedding dress and sending out our save the date, starting to plan the wedding, just in these 4 months, there have already been numerous things that have happened that have honestly shocked me and left me feeling pretty heartbroken. So I had, we can't invite everybody to our wedding. It's going to be a very intimate wedding. And some people have strong feelings about that. People have feelings about who's in our wedding party, the price of our wedding, just so many different opinions and thoughts and disagreements that I would have never, ever expected. I have been in weddings. I've been a part of weddings. I've planned weddings in the past. And I just always saw it as like, that is that couple's day. Whatever they want goes. Unless they come to me and directly ask me what I think about something, I'm not going to share an opinion. And if there's something that they're planning that affects me, maybe I can't afford it or something like that, then I'll have a conversation. But I'm going to move heaven and earth to make sure that that couple feels so supported and so celebrated in their engagement season and at their wedding and when they're married, most importantly, when they're married. And that really wasn't fully the response that I got, not initially, at least. There's been some hard conversations, some work that has been done that has helped turn that around, and it's still turning around. And I believe there's going to be so much beautiful repair that happens through this process. But there were numerous challenges with my family and extended family. And I know it's just the start. So that was unexpected. A lot of things came up within my family. And then on top of that, some things came up within my friendships. And family stuff I could kind of see coming because, like I shared, I had difficulties with my family in the past in other ways too. So it's not that shocking. But with my friends, it really was completely unexpected. And what I've learned is that honestly, nobody is excited for your wedding as you are. You are the one who's spending every day sending the emails to the caterer, the florist, who's looking at the Pinterest boards to get inspiration, who is daydreaming in your head about what that moment and that day is going to be like. You are the only person who spends the 6 months, year, 2 years, however long you're engaged for, thinking about your wedding pretty much every day. And every bride is different. Some brides will think about it like 2 months before and cram everything in. And other brides, like me, I think about it all the time because I'm so excited for it. And as a past wedding planner, I just know what goes into it. So I'm extremely organized. I'm extremely prepared. Pretty much the whole wedding's already planned, and I love planning it. It is so much fun for me. Like, the planning process is not stressful. It's enjoyable. It's all the extra noise that's come with that process that I didn't expect. And when you're a bride, you kind of hope that people will show up for you in the way that you would want them to show up, the way that you would show up for them. And having that high of an expectation, I believe, is necessary for a friendship, because if you have no expectations for people, then people will get away with doing hurtful things or not being a true friend. So there needs to be a standard in your friendships. But at the same time, when you have super high expectations that maybe aren't communicated and somebody else has their own life to live, no matter what, you're going to be let down. Maybe they're not reaching out as much as you're hoping for. Maybe they're not participating as much. Maybe there's some pushback on dates or things like that. Who knows? Things just will not go the way that you would envision it or the way that you would plan it. So with friends, there were just a few things where I just was a little disheartened by how things were handled, and it was extremely hurtful, predominantly because of the expectations and the standard that I know I would hold myself to that I didn't feel was being reciprocated. And again, same thing with my family. I believe that so much beautiful healing and repair is going to come through this process. I'm in the stage of that right now, and I know that God can overcome anything. I know He can repair anything, but I have been in this stage of honestly kind of grieving, where things have come to light with many relationships, family or friendships, that I just was not prepared for, that nobody told me would maybe happen. I had one girlfriend who reached out to me when I got engaged. She had been married recently, a few months before our engagement, who shared with me, hey, there's going to be a lot of stuff that comes up in this wedding planning process that nobody told you about, that nobody is honest about. Please reach out to me anytime to talk about it. And I was like, yeah, totally, I get it. But like, I'm really good at wedding planning. I'm pretty type A. I have this all figured out. Thinking she was just talking about like the organization and what goes into it, the pricing, things like that. Now I know it is much deeper than that. Weddings are a pressure cooker. They have a direct, finite timeline on when things need to be done, on when things need to be managed, on when things need to be talked about, because you have a set wedding date. If I was realizing or going through these difficult things in my relationships without the pressure of a wedding coming up, it would be completely different. I wouldn't feel like, oh my gosh, this needs to be talked about, this needs to be resolved, I need to make a decision here. I wouldn't be feeling that way to the extreme that I'm feeling, because I know I only have so many months before the big event happens, before I get married. And it puts a lot of pressure on the bride, on the relationship, on the conversations, everything, which is nobody's fault. That's just a reality, because there is an end date to things. So decisions do have to be made. Hard conversations when there is a rift in a relationship does need to happen before that date. There is a finite amount of time to manage these things. And nobody talks about these things openly, probably because they want their wedding day to be so perfect. They want to have no challenging or hard memories surrounding their wedding day, so they just brush it under the rug, or they're ashamed, thinking, my wedding is supposed to be this amazing thing, and yet I'm dealing with all of these difficulties. Like, I'm embarrassed that that's even happening. That probably doesn't happen to anybody else. So we assume that it's only us who feels this way, and we don't talk openly about it. I've seen it talked about a little bit on TikTok, which has been very helpful to help me see I am not alone. But I am here to tell you, if you are a bride and you're going through this, you are not alone. I can almost promise you that every single bride has experienced some struggle around their wedding, either during the wedding planning process, during the wedding itself, or post-wedding, no matter what. Issues come up because, like I said, weddings are a pressure cooker, and they put a lot of expectation and pressure and just a lot of intensity on relationships and on things around you. And so things come to light. You start to see who is genuinely for you and for you just because it's for you, not because it's anything related to them. You see who is going to show up for you. You see who your true people are. You see who loves you because there's nothing in it for them, but simply because they love you. You learn that through this wedding planning process. People will let you down. It is inevitable. And it shows you things about your relationships. And the biggest advice I can give is just to have radical acceptance for all of this. When things happen, whether it's something with the organization or the planning process, just accept that that happened and it's going to be okay. When things happen in your relationships, when people do not treat you the way you hope to be treated, or they don't show up the way you feel they should be showing up because they're in your bridal party or they're your family member or they're a guest at the wedding, radical acceptance. Just sit back and say, okay, I don't really know why this is happening. It hurts me. I feel discouraged and unloved, and there's so many feelings swimming around inside of me. But don't let those feelings control you. Don't let those feelings take away from this once in a lifetime experience for you. Radical acceptance. Sit back and say, I accept this. I don't understand it, but I know that there's some sort of teaching or lesson or beauty that's going to come from it. I know that things play out the way they are meant to play out every single time. So I'm going to just trust that this is what's supposed to happen. And someday it'll make more sense. And not only do people not talk about the struggles that go into wedding planning and weddings openly, but nobody teaches you how to be a bride. Nobody teaches you how to be a fiance, how to be married. Nobody teaches you really any of these skills. We're kind of taught how to be a wife. Like we see that on social media. There's a lot of books written about conflict communication, how to show up for your husband, things like that. But the season of being a bride, I don't know. I've never seen any books or podcasts or anything like that about this topic. I feel like I went into this pretty much blindly. I'm one of the first in my friend groups to get married. The only other person who's been married I know also struggled with certain things. So nobody told me, nobody prepared me, nobody taught me. And I'm learning on my own as I go. And being a bride and stepping into being somebody's wife is one of the biggest transitions a woman will ever go through in her life. Outside of having a baby or maybe losing a loved one, it really is the biggest shift, the biggest change that will happen for a woman and for the man too, of course, for the groom, but I'm just talking from a female perspective. It is one of the biggest transformations. Everything in your life is going to transition. Spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, emotionally, everything is going to change. And yes, sure, if you live with your partner before you get married, a lot of that logistical stuff will be the same. You've probably worked through a lot of the more philosophical, emotional things too, because you've been living with each other and you can see each other's flaws much more clearly. But on a spiritual level, it is going to be completely different. You are now no longer just a separate entity from somebody. You are becoming a unit with somebody. You are becoming like a God ordained and chosen unit. When you become a wife, you are declaring that you are going to be committed to that person for the rest of your days. You are openly declaring a bond, something extremely sacred, something that shouldn't be taken lightly. And when you undergo that, it's not just a shift in your last name or what ring you have on your finger. It's a shift in who you are as a person. It shifts your identity. It shifts from you being a single person to you being in a unit, into a bond, into something that God himself blesses and sees as extremely serious. So when we as women step into that stage of our lives, there's a lot that goes on in our heads and in our hearts. And we first have to go through the wedding planning process to even get there, which kind of clouds all of the things that we're going to feel and experience when we are a wife. But there's so much being put on us that it's challenging to be a bride. It's beautiful. It is so special. It is so exciting, but it is also challenging because you are undergoing such a major shift while simultaneously dealing with a lot of little annoying issues or sometimes really big issues that come up in the wedding planning process. I know people who've lost friendships, family relationships over weddings. I've seen people and know people who have to set very strict boundaries with their family for the wedding. Maybe they drink too much. Maybe they are disrespectful. They have to set those boundaries before they go into the wedding. There are so many things that go into this ordeal because it is one day, one experience, and there's a lot that goes behind that. And for me personally, and I know this may be different from some other brides who are listening to this, but for me, my wedding is not just a celebration. It is a celebration. I want everybody to have so much fun. I want it to be like a big party. I want people to be dancing, to feel free, to connect with each other. I want it to be so much fun. But it's also something that I see as being very sacred and spiritual and special. And so I take it seriously because of that. So when these struggles come up in my wedding planning process, for me, they're not light struggles. It's not something that I just brush off and I laugh about and I let somebody mistreat me and just brush it under the rug. It's something that I pay attention to. And I pay attention to the deeper meaning that may be connected behind the thing that's happening. And there always is a deeper meaning. With any conflict, with any situation, it never is the surface level thing that the conflict is about. There's always 10 things underneath that are deeper that need to be addressed. So that's what I'm doing with this whole wedding planning process. None of it is just lighthearted for me. It's all something that I take very serious because I take my marriage very seriously. I have every intention to only be married one time in my life. And so I worked extremely hard in my past to find the man that God has prepared for me, to be ready for that man. And I believe that that man is Bobby. I believe that Bobby and I can withstand any storm because we've proven in our relationship that we can. So I take the vows that I'm going to say, the commitment I'm going to give on my wedding day as much more than just a celebration. And as a result, I want the people around me on that day to be a part of that commitment, to be a part of that journey. I see, for example, my bridal party not just as people who will help me out with the planning or somebody I party with when I go on my bachelorette party. I see them as the people, as the women who are going to stand by my side in the toughest, the darkest of storms in my marriage. I see them as the people who I'm going to turn to when my spouse and I may be going through a hard time, when I'm struggling with my mental health, when I don't know how to be a good wife or a good mother. They will be my support system. They will be my sisters through this sacred, special journey that I'm about to step in on. So as a result, when there are struggles within relationships or within planning for this wedding, it's not something that I just laugh about. It's something that holds weight for me. And I personally feel that it should, because I am setting myself up for success in my marriage. I am building the foundation that will carry my marriage into the future. It's the same way that I coach people on dating and getting into relationships in the first place. If you don't have that strong foundation to build the house on, then when the wind comes, when the lightning comes, when the thunder comes, it's going to fall to pieces. And you may see that as, well, there was no conflict and everything was amazing and we had a great relationship, and then be shocked when something happens and you can't withstand it. But in reality, that just means you guys never built the foundation in the first place. So I tell people to slow down, go slow, get to know this person, learn each other's flaws, learn each other's quirks, learn how to love each other right, and then commit. Commit through those things that you learn. Don't just commit because you want a boyfriend or you feel lonely or you want to have fun. You need to build a foundation if you want something lasting and healthy, which is the same way that I view my wedding that is preparing me for my marriage. It's the same way that I view the people that I'm bringing into this extremely sacred space in my life. So if I see that people maybe are not who I thought they were, maybe they are not there for me in the way that I know I need for my marriage, it's something that I have to consider. And it's something that I am considering. It's something that I will reflect on and I will work through. And like I said earlier in this episode, I believe anything can be repaired. And if it's not repaired, then I know that's what was meant to happen. So that is why, for me, when struggles come up in the wedding planning process, it's something that carries a lot of weight for me. And I can almost guarantee that other brides listening to this, if you have the same mentality about your marriage, you feel the same way. You feel worried that you're going to be surrounded by somebody who isn't going to be there for the long haul, or people who aren't genuinely there for you, people who are making the wedding about themselves, which is another thing you will see that people do make the wedding about themselves. It's about like their experience and if they're going to have fun and things like that. It's human nature, it's ego, it's insecurity. People make things about themselves because they want to make sure like they're good. They're thinking about themselves. They don't see it as, okay, this is a day for these two people and the joining of their union. They don't have that mentality necessarily. Or it's something deeper going on with them. Maybe it's an insecurity or some sort of like ego block that they need to remove. Who knows? That's not really for us to know. That's for them to heal and figure out. But it is something you will see. People making weddings about themselves. And again, radical acceptance. Trust that you are doing what is right for you and your fiance and your marriage, and focus on that and that alone. You do what is right for you. You do what is right for you and your fiance. Choose the traditions and the location and the activities and anything involved in your special day that is right for you two and nobody else. I know that it gets sticky when you have parents who are maybe helping, or family members, loved ones who are helping pay for the wedding, but set boundaries with those people early on. Show your gratitude, but let them know like this is still for me and my fiance, and I'm going to honor you through it. But at the same time, I want you to trust that when I make a decision, when I choose a particular thing with this wedding, that it is the right one for me and my fiance. And I hope that you can respect that. There needs to be some boundaries that are set, especially with family. So on top of setting boundaries around your special day, here are a few other tips and advice that I've learned through my season of being a bride and planning a wedding. The first one, when you're thinking about who you want to surround you on your wedding day, who's going to be a part of your wedding party, who's going to officiate, who's going to go on that journey with you, just who's going to be like the main people during your wedding, only choose people who you fully trust to show up for you. People who you trust will be a part of this season, this journey, who will be there for you on your wedding day, and who will be a part of your marriage. Like I said, you are preparing for something sacred. And so that means you need to be surrounded by a community of people who have that same mindset, who feel the same way, who are on the same page as you, and who are going to support you in the highs and the lows of that ongoing journey. And at the same time, like I've been talking about, remove expectations. Like, have standards for your friendships. You should have them in any relationship, but the extra expectations that come with this process, do your best to just remove them and trust that the right people will show up for you in the right way. And if people don't show up for you the way that you're hoping, know that a lot of times it's not intentional. It's just something personal is happening in their life. They have their own things going on. They may be completely unaware of the way that they're making you feel, especially if they've never been a bride or gotten married themselves. A lot of times it's completely unintentional. So hold space for that. Have conversations when you need to, but don't let it be something that is world-shattering or relationship ending. That's reserved for the things that are extremely serious and unacceptable. And if they are intentionally not showing up for you, like you hear the stories of the bridesmaid who's unresponsive, who doesn't participate in things, who complains about money, who makes everything about her. Like, there are those kind of like horror stories, if you will, about bridesmaids, bridal party, people in the wedding. If it's intentional, if somebody is actually not there for you and they have no desire to hear you out when you share with them how you're feeling, then that speaks for itself. That shows you the people who are meant to be a part of this season and your future. And it will show you the people who are not meant to be a part of it. So pay attention to it, like take note of it. And I have already had hard conversations around my wedding with different people, friends, family, other people. And it's challenging because all you want is for this season of being a bride to feel so like celebrated and happy and joyful. And when you have to have those conversations, it is a letdown. It takes away from that season. But I guess I shouldn't say it takes away, because it is a part of what you're learning. It is a part of preparing you to be a wife, preparing you to step into this extremely powerful and amazing season of your life, of being somebody's lifelong partner, of being married. So every lesson that you learn through this process, while it may be discouraging or while it may cause you to have a couple tearful days, in the end, it is for a reason. And I believe that in every area of my life. If I lose my job, it's for a reason. If I get knocked down and lose a bunch of money and I can't support myself or pay my bills, it's for a reason. If I go through a breakup, it's for a reason. If I have a really difficult experience, moment, hard conversation with somebody, it's all for a reason. And we can't know that reason necessarily when we're in it, but we can know that reason when we look back. And so I know and I fully trust that when I am married to Bobby, when I am a wife, I will look back on this time as a bride and I will see very clearly how the things I'm learning, how the hardships I'm going through, how the lessons I'm discovering prepared me to be a better wife. And I'm excited for that. And while it may not be picture perfect, I know that it's on purpose. So trust that you are being shown the things that you need to be shown. Trust that you are learning the things that you need to learn. Trust that you are shedding the things that you need to shed to go to this next stage of your life. You are, in many ways, stepping into a whole new reality. You are becoming a whole new version of yourself. And anytime that you up level in life, anytime that you kind of like jump into a new season or a new reality, you have to shed things. You have to learn things and let things go. And this is just part of that process. And it's for a good reason in the end. And next, the more you can relinquish control and just trust the process, the more enjoyable this is going to be for you, including the hiccups and the annoying or difficult things that happen. If you can just have complete acceptance for every stage of this process, every setback, every heartbreak, everything, and see it, like I just said, for something that's preparing you for something greater, or trusting that things will work out the way that they're meant to, and trusting that your special day is going to be exactly what it is meant to be, then you will not feel and hold so much weight towards the hiccups and towards the difficulties. You'll embrace them. You'll be excited for them. And you'll say, I don't get it. I don't see it now, but I know I will see it someday. And I know it's for something so powerful, something beyond what I can even understand right now. So you guys, brides, anybody listening to this, your season of engagement, your time being a bride, it will prepare you for so much. It will teach you so much. It will open your eyes to so much. And some of those things can be really disheartening, really heartbreaking, really difficult, but they will all be used for something good if you allow them to be. So trust the process, hold radical acceptance for the people around you, forgive people, have hard conversations, and repair relationships where repair is part of the plan, and let go of the ones where it's not. Your wedding is for you and your fiance, and it is a symbol of stepping into something that God created to create so much beauty in our lives and in relationships and in the world around us. So see it as something beyond any of the little hiccups, beyond any of the difficulties. There's something greater that you are stepping into that deserves your attention, not those little things. The little things will work out exactly the way they are meant to. I hope this helps. I hope you guys can kind of, well, I don't hope you can relate to the things I've shared, like the difficulties I've shared, but if you do, then I hope this gives you some peace and some direction on where to go next and just helps you refocus on you and your fiance and the core of what all of this is about, which is your marriage, which is stepping into and committing publicly to something so, so beautiful. You're not alone in any of this. Every bride goes through it. We just don't talk about it, but hopefully by talking about it on this podcast, it will give some of you some encouragement and some comfort. Thank you all for tuning in. Remember, if you are interested in coaching, you can head to my website, CoachKateDeRocher.com. Click on the link that says work with me and then fill out my coaching application and I'll reach out to you. I would love to meet you. I would love to support you in all of these seasons and all of these journeys that you're going through. Whether you just had your heart broken or you've been single for a long time or you're having a lot of issues within your relationship that you want to see last, or maybe you need to get out of a relationship. Whatever stage you're in, I'm here for you. I created my business. I created this podcast. I create all of my content to help you build better relationships and to find lasting love through inner healing. That, I believe, is my mission and my purpose on this earth. So if this resonates with you, if you're going through any of those things, if you need some support, please do not hesitate to reach out. You can also find me on Instagram or TikTok at Coach Kate DeRocher, same handle for both platforms. Please shoot me a DM. I respond more easily on Instagram because TikTok is really confusing. So DM me on Instagram preferably, but please reach out. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Please like it. Please share it with a friend. Please rate the podcast. It helps me so, so much as I'm launching this show and I'm only in my first 7 months with the show. It's still very fresh. The more support I can have from you guys who listen, the more I can help other people who are going through the same things that we are. So please like, rate, subscribe, send it to people, share it with any bride that you know in your life. I appreciate your support so much more than I can even put into words. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your encouragement. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for supporting. And I will see you here next time on Wildly Capable with Kate.